Ring doorbells, the smart doorbells that allow you to see who drops stuff off at your door, and they can even ring the doorbell to talk to you as a sort of PA system. You get notifications to your phone whenever the doorbell is ringed, and you can talk to the delivery man back through it, all that good stuff. These doorbells have had some problems lately. So there's the stories about them exploding and catching fire, and this has been such a problem that even Amazon, the owner of Ring, recalled over 300,000 of these doorbells. But this issue actually turned out to really only be Ring's fault in the sense that they didn't go far enough to foolproof the design of their devices. So basically, what you had happening is a lot of people were installing these on their homes themselves, which normally wouldn't be that big of an issue because it's really not that complicated to install them. So basically, you've got this bracket here that goes onto the side of your house, and then these are the four screws where the four screw holes where you would put in that bracket. And then you've got this part here that the actual Ring doorbell, like the actual smart device, connects to. And when you get the Ring doorbell in the bottom here, you're supposed to put the security screws that come with it. And these security screws are basically designed sort of like a Torx, but they have another nipple in the middle. And the whole idea is that most people walking down the street probably are not going to have this kind of screwdriver. So it makes it pretty hard for them to just steal the Ring doorbell off the side of your house. Well, what people were doing is they would get the screws for these two different things backwards. So the screws that are going to go onto the side of your house are going to be wood screws like this. You know, assuming that you have wood, there might be some extra things you got to do to install them onto the side of a brick house. But this is where these screws for the mounting bracket go, and then this is your security screw. People would get them switched up backwards, and they would put the wood screw into the Ring doorbell. And these wood screws are usually about, 1.5 to 2 inches long. Like, they're significantly longer than the security screws. So they're going up through the housing of the Ring device and then puncturing the battery. And that's where all the fire issues are happening from. So it's not really a flaw in the device itself. It's just people, I guess, don't know the difference between wood screws and security screws. Now, that's not the end of the issues with this doorbell, and it's not even the biggest problem. I would say the biggest issue with these is that they don't have great security, and this actually is Ring's fault. It's not just the users. So when you initially set up your Ring doorbell, it's broadcasting an unsecure Wi-Fi connection, or at least this is how it used to work. It was broadcasting an unsecure Wi-Fi connection to the app on your phone that facilitates the setup process. So this is where you would go to name your doorbell, like front door, back door, if you're using multiple ones. And you would also put in your credentials for your Wi-Fi through here, because obviously this has to connect to your home network for it to actually be a smart doorbell. But if you're doing that while somebody is capturing the packets nearby, if they're just sniffing packets going by in the air, they'll have your Wi-Fi password because, like I said, it's not encrypted, it's not authenticated, they're just plain text. So from there, they can, of course, go onto your network and attempt to hack other devices. And since they now have access to the Ring systems, a lot of hackers, they would simply troll the residents of the house by talking to them and stuff like that. Like there's a lot of these videos that you've probably seen online. So this is
I see you.
Someone talking to this kid or like maybe a teenager through the Ring. This one's pretty benign because they're basically just talking like nothing crazy. I think he starts asking him like if he plays Minecraft and stuff like that. There's been worse cases, like there's been I guess like people sexually harassing them over the doorbell and stuff like that. Hackers gonna do what hackers do. So yeah, pretty spooky stuff. Now you might be thinking, oh, this has to be done during the time that I initially set up the Ring doorbell, so there's a very small window for a hacker to get to me. Not necessarily. It's also possible for someone outside of your network to deauthorize the Ring device from your network, which would require it to be set up again. So this isn't just a one-time opportunity for hackers to grab your Wi-Fi credentials. Now, As long as you have installed the firmware update for this, because it came out, I want to say almost a year ago. As long as you got that firmware update, you don't need to worry about this particular vulnerability. But we all know how users are with updates. They don't do them. Even simple updates like on a computer, Windows, where it does it automatically for you. I can't tell you how many times I've had clients that didn't even allow this to run and just do the updates automatically. So having to push out software updates and firmware updates, it's really the only way you can fix it, but the fact that something like this existed in the first place is a little bit troubling. But Ring, or rather Amazon, since they own them now, their attitude towards the security of these devices is still really lacking, in my opinion. So there was a response to a recent class action lawsuit going on, because there's been tons of families that have had this hacking going on. I'm sure you can see over here in the recommended bar other examples of it happening. With this class action lawsuit, Amazon's response is basically, well, they should have used stronger passwords. We fixed the credential capturing vulnerability about a year ago, so everything beyond that just isn't our responsibility. And, I really wonder how likely it is that the users of this technology were told by Ring, either in the instructions or by the customer service, how to pick a good password, because obviously not everyone is security conscious. You can't expect the users of your product, the same ones that were confusing wood screws with security screws, to be able to get their security right. And how many people actually changed their passwords after that firmware update was pushed out? Because if somebody stole the credentials to your Wi-Fi earlier, unless you go and change the password, that's still going to be a hole that's open. I mean, yeah, you can technically say, oh, it's not Ring's responsibility anymore. But again, do you think that the customers actually know better to change their Wi-Fi password after they've been hacked? Like, I've dealt with people like Geek Squad that got hacked, and most of the time they're just in a panic. Like, they don't know what to do. They don't know what the steps are to mitigate any type of hacking attack that's happened to them. So again, I wonder, did Amazon actually go through the steps to guide people through that? Really, my advice for how to deal with these things: just don't use Internet of Things devices. So far, I'm unconvinced of the usefulness of probably 99% of the IoT tech that's out there. As we've seen with these devices and many others, they oftentimes end up being a security nightmare, because end users don't know how to practice good OPSEC with them, and the companies making these, they don't even try to nudge people in the right direction. And there's also the issue of system sprawl. It's really not a good idea to have so many devices on your network that you're not keeping track of, because the likelihood of one of them becoming outdated and then having a vulnerability open up that gives someone access to the device and possibly a pivot point to compromise other devices on your network, that increases with each new device that you add on. Don't use IoT devices.